Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you basically a mixing guide. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer first before we get off into the video. This is not a one-way fits all. This is not a one-way be all end all. This is not just the only way to do this. I'm going to show you what I do in this type of instrumental. I'm going to show you something that I do that works for me, and hopefully it could give you a guide to mixing your own instrumentals and things like that. But this is by far not the only way to do this. So hopefully you do find something in this video that can be useful to you in your future mixes. And make sure you do like and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it. So you can see on my screen I have an instrumental laid out. I don't have too much going on here, and I'm not going to break down the instrumental, but I will kind of give you a before and after so that you can hear what it sounds like before and after, of course. But I'm going to let you hear the instruments and everything else kind of individually, and then we'll get into the mixing portion of everything. So I started with this piano first. Then I got the string section is kind of following the piano, or what the piano was doing, the chords. And you can hear that little effect that's on it already. That is a gross beat effect, and that's already in there. Now, normally I would show that part of the mixing process, but I had already put that on as I was making the instrumental itself. But I will show you what I did there. The next one is just a string solo, and it's supposed to sound like a violin, and it doesn't sound exactly like a violin, but it's pretty close, and it's basically following those root notes, and I just added some other notes in it, and this is what that sounds like. And after that, we have the bass, attempted bass, and it's just kind of following those notes as well. This is what it sounds like. And after that, we have the acoustic guitar, but it's really an electric guitar because I already put hardcore on it, and I have a video already uploaded showing you how to make your acoustic guitar sound like this, and I'll put that in the corner somewhere. So if you want to go reference that video on how to make it sound like this, but hardcore is already on it, and this is what it sounds like. And of course, after that, I have all my drums here, so I'll cut all these off and let the drums and 808 and everything play together here. And this is what everything sounds like together before it's been mixed. Now, there's a few things that you can tell what's wrong with this mix off the bat without even having to listen too long, listen too hard. First of all, the guitar is way too loud, and that's what happens when you just kind of lay it down and you don't actually cut it down when you put the hardcore on it, because that hardcore preset is a distortion preset and it makes it louder. Also, I have two basses playing at the exact same time. The Tempted is a bass, and the 808 is considered a bass and a drum. So those two are clashing with each other, and so you can hear it. Now, in the final product, the bass most likely won't play at the exact same time as the 808, but the bass is most likely going to be there for the verses and whatnot. But you can hear that, and you can also hear that it doesn't have any punch to it. The bass doesn't have any punch to it. The drums don't have any punch to it. So it's pretty much a out of place mix. The piano just doesn't sound like it's where it's supposed to be, and that's okay, because I'm gonna put everything where everything goes, or I'm gonna mix it where everything goes, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I do that. So we're gonna start first with the balancing of all the instruments. My mixer is on another screen, so let me go ahead and pull it over here for you. Now, what I like to do, you don't have to do this yourself, but something that I like to do is I'll take all these channels here, or all these mixer tracks here, highlight them, and then let's just go ahead and turn them all the way down. And now we'll start kind of bringing everything in. I know a lot of people like to start with their drums first, or their bass or kick or their snare, but personally, because I know how this piano sounds, I want to go ahead and bring the piano in first, and then I'll kind of bring everything else in to get that that good balance that I'm looking for. So we're gonna start with the piano. I'm just gonna hit play. You can't hear anything yet, but let's go ahead and bring that piano in. All right, so I got all the melodic instruments in here. This is not going to be the final say of where everything goes, but this is a pretty good balance. I can hear the bass really well, I can hear the piano really well, and I can hear everything else really well, and that guitar is not drowning everything out. So the next thing I want to move over to is going to be my kick or my drums, and I'm going to start with my kick. So right here is the kick. I'm going to just bring it in first. Next is the 808. I'm going to turn that bass off so I can hear the 808. And I know right now they sound really low, and that's okay, because I'm going to put some processing on it, and it's going to bring it up a lot louder than where it is now, but I'm bringing it up to where I could just hear it over the piano and the guitar. Let's go with the hi-hat now. No, let's go with the snare. Now we'll go with the hi-hat, the closed hi-hat. Open hi-hat. And then we'll go that second snare. All right, and now I have everything at a pretty good balance, and this is what I'm going for now. In mixing, there are a lot of different steps, so this is just the first step. We're going to get more in depth with this, and we're going to start bringing things up a little bit louder without actually turning the volume up on them in the mixer. And what we'll do is we'll start adding some processing to it, and that's going to allow us to actually give it some body to it. So, and I encourage you, when you are mixing, to try not to think too hard about it. Go with what sounds good. If it sounds good, then chances are it is good. And if it's not, well, you'll get better at it. But you just gotta do it more often. You gotta be able to just get it done. But if you spend too much time on it, then your ears are going to start to get fatigued, and then you're going to start to think that things aren't sounding how they really sound, or you're going to think things are sounding how they don't sound. Something you'll notice is my music is not loud. I don't mix at a high volume. I encourage you to not mix at a high volume, because things are going to sound better because they're louder when they aren't really better. So just make sure you kind of bring your volume down, your volume knob down on your interface, or whatever you have your sound going through. That way you can actually tell what is what and what sounds good and what doesn't. Also, you will need a good pair of headphones. Now, I'm using some Yamaha headphones, and these are some really decent headphones. I get really good mixes out of them. If you don't have headphones, make sure you got a good set of monitors. All right, so the next thing I want to get into is the adding the effects to some of these. So the first thing is the piano. Now, what I have already here for my piano, because I have different spaces that I put my piano in, or I like for my piano to sound like it's in, I already have what are called mixer states. And you can get to those by right-clicking, file, and then you got all these different states here, right? These different mixer states. Now, I'm not using any of these states. I actually have my own mixer state, and I'll show you in the video how you can create your own mixer state as well for some of these other instruments. But I want to pull out a mixer state that I already have created here, and it's in my Jooce box kit. And if you don't know, the Jooce box kit is going to be dropping June 1st, and it's going to have a lot of loops. It's going to have a lot of drums. It's going to have a lot of different things. We got our mixer presets, piano mixer presets, bass mixer presets. We got drums. We got accents. We're going to have some risers, some rim shots. You can see all these things here is where we're going to have some MIDI loops and all kind of good stuff in this multi kit. So make sure you do get that when it drops. Stay tuned. If you subscribe to the channel and like the video, you'll definitely get notifications when I do drop it. So just make sure you like this video and you subscribe to the channel. But I'm gonna go here to the piano mixer preset. I'm gonna just pick this one up, drag it, and I'm gonna drop it right onto this track 1. And as you can see, it's already set to how I want it to sound. So if I mute this, or if I solo this, everything in here is sounding just like I want it to sound. And you can see it's already turned down these knobs where I blend in everything. And if I go before and after, so before, after, before, after. And as you can see, it got louder. I didn't have to bring the volume up. It actually got louder on its own, and I'll show you what's going on in there. So the first thing there is the Fruity Parametric EQ. These are the settings here. I cut out some low end, cut out some high end, and I wanted it to be a little warmer, so I boosted it up right here in the low mids, and I also kind of wanted it to have a little bit of that high fresh airness to it, or kind of a high mid feel. So I boosted up the high mids just a little bit. I'm not overdoing anything on this. You don't have to overdo it. I will say, though, you do want to kind of test everything, but I don't make extreme moves like boost it all the way up here and slide it over. I don't do that. It's just not what I do. Some people find it useful. Personally, I don't. I think it just reveals things that I'm trying to not hear, so I just boosted it where I wanted it, and it sounds good like that, in my opinion. So that's the first thing. Second thing is this Fruity compressor. So you see, I got a fairly slow attack. It's not too fast. And then I got a slow release, so it's holding on a little bit longer. And my threshold is negative 16 dB, and now we're compressing, or the ratio is 6 by 1. For every 6 0.6 dBs over -16, it's going to drop it down by 1 decibel, 1 dB. And of course, to bring that back in, I added the gain at 5.5, so it brings it a little bit over, but that's to make up for what we lost. And the type that I'm using is vintage. And the reason I use this vintage type is because it almost adds like a warmth to it. So if we play it with, let's go with the hard first, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Versus the vintage. It doesn't sound saturated, but it sounds a little bit warmer, and that's kind of what I was going for. I wanted that piano to sound warm, so that's that. And now I could save this as its own preset by going here and then save preset as. But instead of me doing that, I actually, since I created it in that mixer state, then this preset is already on there whenever I load that mixer state up. Then I have the delay, and the delay, if you look here, you can barely hear some of that delay that's going on. I do have the wet or the dry knob turned down because I want it to be super wet, and I also offset the delay, so it's more over in the left side before it's over in the right side, but you can hear it on both sides. And I have that ping pong on, and I got it set to 4. If you look down here in my channel or my hint panel, you'll see that it says it's at about 4. So, and my hint panel is at the bottom. I know that's different from most people, and I have a video showing you exactly how to do that. Go check out my shorts. But anyway, I just mixed it in just a little bit because I didn't want it to be too wet, but I needed it to kind of sound like it was in a space. And after that, then I brought in the reverb, and the reverb, as you can see too, is super wet. I got the early reflection kind of high. I have the size a bit small, and I have the decay up some, but I turned that damp down. I'm not a big fan of too much damp in the auditorium field, so that's what it is. And I call this this mixer state small auditorium. The next thing I want to work on is going to be this string section. I'm gonna cut it back on, and the gross beat is on here, and I kind of chose this preset here as the 1 beat gate, and I kind of, as you can see, I brought that down some so you can barely hear it, and then I also brought the attack up quite a bit so it's not right as soon as it hits. It's a little bit later, so you get it. And then of course on the grain side of things, I have this little curve that I created, which I know there's a curve like that somewhere in here. I just didn't want to go looking for it, so I just created it myself, and this is what it sounds like. You can kind of get that tape feel at the end of it, or that slowing down feel at the end of it. This is what the strings sound like. And it's really subtle, so you can hear it, but you can't, or you can feel it, but you can't really hear it that much. And that was what I was going for. But I do want to do some things to that, so I'm going to cut that piano back on, and I'm going to add some things to this. I actually do have a mixer state for it. So if I go here to my mixer presets and go to strings here, this is a mixer state for it. I'm going to just drop it right on 2. Here, let's add gross beat to it. All right, let's remake that gross beat setting there. It was a simple 1 beat gate here. We'll cut the attack up a little bit more. Then we'll go back over here to empty. I'm going to right click on this little dot here, and I'm going to cut to single curve, and I'm going to put a dot right here. We're just going to bring this down about there, and then simple. Right, and then let's just cut this down. We'll blend it in. So let me turn these off. So you can kind of hear it, but not too much, right? And then we have the parametric EQ, the reverb, and the panamatic on here. These are already on once I bring in that mix state, but I'll show you what I did here. I kind of brought out some of those low mids because remember, I boosted the piano in this same spot. So here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I didn't want the piano and the strings to be clashing with each other. So I brought it out here, but you can see it's actually, this is the piano and this is the strings. That way they're not clashing with each other. And we could actually hear them. I also didn't need that much of a warmth into the strings. Now, I also boosted here because I did want it to be a little bit brighter on the airy side of things, so that it sounds wider that way to me when you cut up that end, or when you boost up that. The next thing is the reverb, and what I do in my reverb. This is Fruity Reverb 1. So if you don't know where that is, you have to kind of load that up, and I'll make a video that shows you how to get Fruity Reverb 1, but you're probably not used to Fruity Reverb 1. If you are, then you know exactly what this is. I have the dry at 0%, the reverb is at 100%, so you get a whole bunch of wet. I cut this up, or I cut that up to 1.5, and the only thing that I really had to do with any of this was this diffusion. I needed to bring it down some. And I don't know why it wasn't there, but I guess I don't know. But anyway, and of course we blend that in because we don't want it to be too loud. And actually that sounds good right there. And I got the Panomatic, and as you can see, it's shifted over to the left because I'm actually going to shift this to the left. The strings are going to be in the left, and once I put that there, for some odd reason it changed the name. It's not supposed to be reverb, it's supposed to be string section. So let's change that back. There we go. And oh, it's because that's the mixer state that I put on that. But anyway, it's over here. It's to the left. I got the speed kind of going a little faster, but it's off center, that pan, and it's a little off center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this to the left as well. And it gives you that sense that it's kind of moving, but it's moving over on that side. Even though you can still hear another, it's taking up on that side. And the reason I move it to the side is because there's going to be things going straight down the middle, and then there are going to be things that you want to put in the side. You don't want those to be overlapping each other, and you want to make sure that you kind of, with this type of instrumental, you want to make sure that you're giving it a big feel or big space to be in. You don't want everything kind of overlapping each other. You want it to sound full. And so moving things to the side gives room for other things. You don't have to turn them up so loud, and it also gives you that full feeling. And this pad, or this string section, almost sounds like a pad, and the reason being is because what I did was I'll actually go into the string section here, and I'll show you that what I did was I took the regular old direct wave strings, and I just brought the attack up. So it's a slow attack, so it comes in slow like a pad, and of course the release is kind of long. The next thing we're going to bring in is our string solo, which is basically like the violin, and we're going to put that same mixer preset right on it. And the string solo is similar to the strings. If you open this up, it's a direct wave. You can find these in your flstudio, so you have them already. And I did the exact same thing with it, and I'm not going to do too much to it. I'm just going to move it to the other side. And we're going to bring these both back down because, see, once I loaded those mixer states on it, it actually brought the volumes back up. So I'm going to bring these back down. Something that bothers me a lot that I see in a lot of people's tutorials videos, they start moving knobs without actually listening to what's happening, and they'll move it and then they'll press play. Don't do that. You got to hear what you're doing, and then they'll stop it to adjust it again. Don't do that. Listen to it while you're making those moves, right? You want to make sure you're making moves intentionally and that you can hear what you're doing. It doesn't make sense to bring this down, then press play. You want to press play and then move it to where you want it to go, or how you want to hear it. And we hear it over there. All right, so the next thing I want to move to is this bass, and I have a preset for it as well. And now that I think about it, once I balanced everything out and I'm now laying these mixer presets on it, it does bring everything back up, which in hindsight now, I guess I didn't think about that before, but yeah, normally I kind of throw these on and then I balance everything, but normally you balance things first. So let's go and throw our bass preset, mixer state, just drop it right on to tempted. And as you see, it brought the volume down on this one because that's normally where it is. So you can see what I have on this one is the Fruity Parametric EQ, where I boosted up in the low end, the bass here, kind of dropped the sub a little bit because I didn't really need that information. It just sounded kind of murky to me and muddy. And I boosted up the highs a little bit, and then I threw on a fast distortion. And as you can see, I have the pre turned all the way up and the mix turned all the way up. I got this threshold kind of almost all the way up, and I'm blending it in here. And what this does is distortion kind of adds a, sorry, I had to put my glasses on, but it kind of gives it more like a stronger or tougher, wider kind of feel to it in that top end. And of course, I put on another parametric EQ, kind of dropped some of the mids, but I boosted up in that same area. And I also boosted a little bit of the sub. And what that sounds like all together. Now, if we go before and after. And it's a subtle difference, but it is a difference, and you can hear that difference, and that's what we want. We want to hear that difference. We don't want to do too much to it, but that is what that sounds like. And pretty much got all of that down besides the guitar. And I'm honestly not going to do much to the guitar because I think the guitar is kind of where I want it to be. So we'll just cut it back on. And we have hardcore loaded up on it already. And hardcore in this preset that I'm using is one that I created. This preset was based off of another preset that is already in hardcore. This is Hard Blues XL. There's another one called Hard Blues XS. And it's kind of based off of that. I just made a few different tweaks to it. And that's okay because it's my own preset now. You can make tweaks to things, and when you make a tweak to something, it now becomes your own. So it's okay to build off of something else. And this preset is also going to be in the Jooce box kit, so if you do want to use it, I will say this plugin itself, it does not come with every version of or every edition of FL Studio. So you got to make sure you got, I want to say, the signature bundle and all plugins bundle. I do believe it's those two bundles that this is already in, or you can just buy it off of ImageLine and add it to your plugin list. If you don't have that, that's okay, because you can still use things like fast distortion or blood overdrive. We got all kind of other distortion plugins that you could use, but I'm using this one, and this is Hard Blues XS, one of my presets, and it just makes that acoustic guitar sound a lot better, like an electric guitar, but it sounds better. And the acoustic guitar that I'm using is literally just a Guitar Direct Wave that I found in FL Studio packs. Also, I have a video explaining that goes over all of this, so you can get a more detailed view. We'll put that video somewhere up here on the screen, and you can check it out or save it for your watch later. But I'm gonna hit play, and then we're just gonna blend that in. Now, I will add one thing to this. I'll add a reverb to it, and I'll kind of blend that in and show you what I do with the reverb. So I'm gonna cut this all the way down. I want them to be in similar spaces as the piano, so I'll cut the wet all the way up. I'll bring that early reflection in some. I'll bring that all the way down, the dry. Let's go ahead and make this size a little smaller. And the diffusion is basically the amount of walls that are there. And let's go ahead and turn the speed down on that. Cut this decay up some, and we're gonna cut out some of this. And this is a starting point, all right? Now I'm going to press play, and I'm going to make adjustments according. Now that I have that adjusted how I want it adjusted, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to bring this all the way down, and then I'm going to blend that into my guitar so that the effect is heard or felt, but it's not overpowering. the before and after. So before. That's really all I want to do to that acoustic guitar. The next thing is going to be our drums, and we're going to get into these drums. One of my favorite parts of mixing is mixing the drums. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this tempted off, this bass. I'm going to just turn it off. I don't want it to clash with my 808. Now let's go ahead and bring in that 808 here, and let's work with it first. And what you'll notice is I'm blending the 808 with everything else still playing, because you don't want to mix things by themselves, because that's not how they play. They don't play by themselves. Now you might have portions of the song where something might play by itself, but normally I'm mixing everything all at once, and I'm not really, well, I'm bringing them in one by one, but I'm mixing them as we go. So that's another tip that I want you to understand. Mix things together, because you don't listen to different things soloed out. You know what I'm saying? So mix them together. What we're going to do first is we're going to add our parametric EQ on here. And I really suggest using your ears for this portion. I know a lot of people like the parametric EQ because it shows you, or you can see the sound, but really don't let that confuse you. Use your ears when you're mixing, period. It's good to have things with visuals, but you want to use your ears, and your ears, they won't lie to you, you know, unless you've been doing it for too long. And then of course that volume might get to you, and you'll start to hear things a little bit differently. But I'm gonna go ahead and just play this, and we're gonna mix and blend this in. We're not going to do too much to that. We don't want that parametric EQ to work too hard, because we're going to put some more stuff on it. And then, of course, we'll add another parametric EQ to it as we go. So I always suggest doing subtle moves, not too big, not too bold. Now, if you want to make a bold move, go for it. It is your mix. But I think as the process goes along, each small move will kind of add up and make a big difference. So next thing I want to add to it is that distortion. Some people use a soft clipper. I never use a soft clipper. It's just not my thing. I'm going to add this fast distortion onto it. I'm going to cut this pre-delay, or this I'm going to pre-amp all the way up, and I'm going to bring this down, this mix down, and I'm going to bring this threshold down, and then I'm going to press play, and it's going to get loud. All right, it's going to get loud. The distortion is going to make it loud because we got that preamp all the way up, but we can adjust that as we go. So let's just kind of get this sounding how we want it to sound, and we'll move on to the next thing. See, when I get it all the way up there, when I turn that mix all the way in, you start to hear that distortion to it. It starts to get crunchy, right? And we want that sound, but we don't want it too much, right? We want it just to be able to be subtle. And the reason I use the distortion like this is because on smaller devices or smaller speakers, usually on smaller devices and smaller speakers, you want to be able to hear that 808. And a lot of times the 808 or the bass don't sound very loud on that low end, so you add some high end to it, and it's going to allow for smaller speakers to pick it up and still be able to feel it. And as you can see, it's brought our dB up quite a bit. If I turn this off and play it, we're peaking at like -8 dB. But if I turn that on, now we're picking at almost 0 dB. So you do want to be careful with that. We're going to add another instance of parametric EQ on here, and we're just going to use it to boost some of these high ends. And now with that 808 playing and that guitar playing, it sounds like the guitar is a little bit louder than the 808, and the only reason I know that is because they're playing together. Now I can adjust that guitar according to, based off my 808. more adjustments here. Next, we're gonna do that kick. I think for now we're done with the 808. Just for now, we might come back and do some more to it, but we gotta get everything kind of in there real quick, and then we'll do some more blending and mixing with everything. Before I get into this kick, let me just say this: everybody's mix is different. Now, personally, my kick and my 808 are not clashing with each other on the places where most people tend to have that issue. So I'm not side chaining my 808 or my kick or anything like that, because they are actually okay to me. They sound okay to me. They sound good to me. So I'm not gonna duck my 808 for my kick to come out. I am gonna kind of manage to get that kick, the high end of that kick, to sound a little bit louder or smack through a little bit more so it's punchier. But other than that, I'm not going to be doing all that side chain. I can show you how to do it. I can teach you how to do it. But in this video, I'm not going to do it because I don't need it. I don't think I'll need it. But if I do need it, of course, I will show you how it's done. All right, so for the kick. Now, what we want to do with the kick is we do want to kind of blend it in with the 808. I want the kick to smack a little bit more than the 808, so it gives that 808 that initial punch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this real quick, and I'm going to add a EQ, parametric EQ2 on it. Hit play. And what we're listening for is we're listening for where the kick, the high end of the kick is sitting, and of course we want to cut out that sub or some of that sub so it gives that room for the 808. And I'm also going to, and it's just subtle movements. We don't want to put too much on it, just small, subtle movements. I think a lot of people get carried away trying to do too much. They're trying to boost too much or cut too much. I know a lot of people like to go ahead and put on one of these shelves or one of these high passes. But me, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna keep it here and just kind of cut it out, because I still want some of it. I still want a good bit of it, but I just don't want as much of it that the 808 has. Next thing I want to do is add another instance of pretty fast distortion, and we're gonna cut it up. We're gonna cut the mix down. We're gonna cut the threshold down, and then we're gonna press play to blend everything in. After that, we'll add another instance of the parametric EQ, and we're just going to boost in a couple of different areas so that we can hear that kick more prevalent. And what a lot of people don't understand with the kick is that the best way to be able to hear the kick is the initial hit. The first portion of that kick is going to be like a high pitched sound or a higher frequency, not a high pitched sound, more like a higher frequency. And it's just the beginning, the initial part of that. So it's like a smack, and then the punch comes after the smack, right? So we want that initial smack to happen, and then we want to hear the rest of the kick. Something you also want to do is you want your kick to be able to stand alone. So what I want to do is I'm going to cut the 808 off and just listen to the kick. And as you can see, it's hitting pretty high. So I'm actually going to send the kick to another channel with the rest of the drums in just a moment after I get done mixing those in, and I'm going to put a compressor on it and kind of glue those all together. But this is where the kick is sitting at for right now. And it sounds good. course, we want to bring that volume down some, because we don't want it to stand out too much. And we bring that 808 back in and hear what it sounds like together. And it looks like they're hitting around the exact same dB, which that is also going to change too as we get done mixing. I want the kick to hit harder, or I want the kick to hit louder than the 808, because the 808 is basically the tail end of the kick. That's just my preference in this specific instrumental. And it's not always that way. Sometimes you want your 808 to hit harder than your kick. All right, let's move on to the snare. And honestly, I don't think this snare needs anything added to it besides a little bit of saturation, because it sounds good by itself. What I'm going to do to saturate this is I'm going to throw on a fruity wave shaper. And what I like to do with this is I'll make a notch right here, right click to make a notch there. And then let's bring this up. And it makes it hit a little bit louder, of course. Then we're going to bring this down, but we want to listen for this while we move it so we can get that saturation. That's good for now. Let's go ahead and bring in that second snare. I'm gonna pan this snare to the right some. I'll pan this one to the right just a little bit. And then let's hear what it sounds like. No, let's pan these to the left, because how a drum set is set up. I'm gonna pan it to the left. And with this snare, we're also going to throw on a wave shaper as well to just kind of bring the volume up on it. And what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of the low end out with just this tool here. And that's kind of put it back there some, back there somewhere, you know what I'm saying? So that's the reason that I do that. I don't want it to be right up front with the other snare. I want it to sound like it's kind of over there somewhere. And then what I want to do is I want to take both of these snares and I want to throw some reverb on them, right? I'm going to throw a reverb on this track here. So I'm going to just name it snare verb. And then I want to send both of these snares to that channel or to that track. I'm going to do a send instead of a bus. So here, and right click on it, and then we'll hit route to this track. And now those are going to go through here as well. We can't hear it just yet, but you can see the signal is going through there. We're going to click on it, and we're going to add some reverb to it, just a regular fruity reverb. Go ahead and cut that on, and we're going to make this super wet. Bring that dry knob down, and this is just a starting point, right? So we can go from it. We're not mixing it just yet. We do want this to be a short decay. Let's take the damp down as well. And now we're going to kind of play around with it and see how it sounds or how we blend it in. Now we'll bring this fader down and we'll blend this reverb into the signal with the rest of it so we can kind of hear it, but it's not overpowering. So if I single these two out here and you listen to them, you can hear just a little bit of reverb. That's completely dry. That's with the reverb. And it's just a small difference. We're not putting too much on there. We're not pushing a lot of reverb in. We're just doing that amount. Let's go ahead and bring everything else back in here. And let's try and work on our hi-hats. I'm hearing this bass again, so take that out. That sounds really good to me so far. So if we go back to our master channel here, we can see how much volume we're getting to everything. And it's just below 2 or -1 dB. So that's kind of loud right now, but don't worry, we're gonna bring it down some more. But what I wanna do is I wanna make another send, and I'm gonna send all the drums to here. I'm gonna call it drums. And then I'm gonna send all the drums there. So we'll start from here, hit control, we'll slide all the way over, and we'll take that 808 out. That's so we go boom, boom. And then we will send it, go here, right, and then route to this track only. Now it's gonna take those two, the snares, out from the track that they're at. So we need to go back, make sure that it's still there. See, it's not there, so we want to route this one to that track, and we want to route this one to that track as well, so we keep that reverb. But now all of our drums are coming through here instead of going directly to the master. None of the drums are going directly to the master. They're going here first, and then they're going to the master, so I can process all the drums at once together. And I don't consider the 808 to be a drum. To me, it is a bass, but it's a drum sounding bass, so I don't put it with my drums. But I also add some other things on these drums that I would not put on my 808. So that's why the 808 is separate from the drums. But with the drums here, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to add, first thing first, I'm going to add an EQ to bring out some of those highs of the snares. Let's do this. See where our snare is sitting around here. We're going to bring this up here. And we see that our 808 is sitting about, or our kick is sitting around this area. We want to boost that up some. Really, I'm using my ears more than I'm using my eyes. I'm just kind of listening around where I'm at. That right there gives that kick a lot of punch. All right, next thing I want to do with those drums, I want to go and take this, what is it, the fruity compressor, and we just kind of want to bring those drums kind of closer to each other and just kind of listen for it. back into this and bring some of this down again. That is gonna be the drums. We'll bring it down here some. Back here on our 808, we got, it's kind of out of control a little bit. So I do have a parametric EQ there. I'm gonna put one more on because I don't want that one to work too hard, and I'm gonna kind of just clean up some of this lower end on this 808 here. That sounds good. All right, now that I got that all done there, the next thing that I want to do is I actually want to go back and balance everything again. This is just a personal preference of mine, so I'm going to bring everything back down. I'm going to leave all the drums where they're at besides the drum bus. I'll bring it back down. I'll bring everything else back down, and then I'll blend everything in from there. Find that 808. All right. Snare, snare. Gotcha. We'll bring this down as well, this reverb. And we'll blend it in from here. And then that'll be basically it. I'm not going to do any mastering to it because personally I don't master any of my beats that I tend to sell. I will bring it up louder, and I leave some headroom for them when I export it, so that whoever purchases the instrumental, they can kind of get on it, and their engineer doesn't have a hard time, getting them on top of the beat. So I will bring this up to 0, though. I will try and bring this up to 0 for listening purposes, but I won't do any mastering to it, or at least not in this very session. I always try to do a mastering session separate from the mixing session, kind of give my ears a break and whatnot. So I'm going to balance this, and then we'll do that before and after. This time I'm going to start with the drums instead of the piano. I'm going to go to that 808 next. Bring some of that reverb in for those snares. I'm not hearing it. I don't think they're going to it anymore. That's because it's the wrong one. I sent that to the wrong one, so let's send it to the right one there. Mistakes happen. Mistakes happen. Oh, there we go. We're all set there. Cut that 808 off so we can blend in the bass. Piano. Strings. And that's about it to blend it all in, and I'll do a before and after for you. Here we go. This is before all the effects, or this is before the mix. So I'm gonna highlight all of these, and then I'm gonna hit this here and before. This is with the 808 instead of the bass. All right, we'll turn everything on. That's with the bass. Now here comes the 808. And that is what a mix is going to sound like. Now, let's just, for shits and giggles, let's throw a limiter on here just to kind of bring the volume up. I'm not going to keep this on here, but we're just going to put it on here for educational purposes. And let's just cut the volume up on it. So we're not going to mess with any of that. We're just going to cut the volume up. Let's try and get it to 0. And of course, more can be done to that, but this is what I'm going to stick with right now. I'm going to actually turn that back off. What I'll do is I'll give this a final mix, or I'll finish up, give it a arrangement and all that good stuff, and then you'll be able to see that at the very end of the video. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from this. And if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments for me. Make sure you do like and subscribe. And also don't forget that June 1st is when I'm going to be dropping the Jooce box multi-kit. And like I said, it's going to have a lot of great stuff in that multi-kit for you guys. So make sure you stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.